Revealed. Undercover CEO discovers single mom in tears. Her incredible story will transform you. Sarah wiped her brow as she carried a tray full of coffee and pancakes over to a table of regulars, her mind racing with thoughts of bills and eviction notices. It was just another morning at Mary S. Diner, and she had barely managed to silence the gnawing fear in her stomach. At 32, she was a single mother of two, wrestling with grief and the maddening pressure of support. She needed this job, yet as eviction notices crowded her modest apartment, each shift weighed heavier than the last. The scent of greasy food mixed with desperation lingered in the air, her internal storm mirrored by the subtle thunderstorm brewing outside. Her heart raced, thinking of Lucas and Mia, who at ages 5 and 7 accepted the chaos around them with innocent determination. She couldn't let them see her worry. She had to be strong. But with each delivery, she felt her resolve slip further. Just a bit longer, she whispered under her breath. The diner was a haven, yet also a risky endeavor, balancing her needs against their desperate situation. An uneasy conflict brewed within her as she gazed at the fabricated smiles on her customers' faces. Each laugh they shared felt like an anchor, pulling her deeper into her ocean of despair. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A grim shadow loomed as Sarah faced a harsh decision. Should she accept extra hours cleaning houses, risking her chance for stability at the diner? The thought twisted her stomach. Yet, with bills piling up, inaction felt like defeat. How could she provide a future for her children? She thought, while grappling with fading dreams. The dormant passion for graphic design she once cherished now felt distant and unachievable. At the counter, a stranger named Mark listened intently, a false name exchanged for anonymity. His kindness was a balm, but also a reminder of the barriers Sarah had built around her heart, unwilling to let anyone penetrate her fortress of solitude. Yet, his laughter encouraged hers, giving her moments of reprieve from her endless worries. They forged a connection, a sacred space behind the waitress name tag and the table's clutter. But with each interaction, she hesitated, wrestling with a gnawing feeling of self-doubt when sharing her aspirations. Just when Sarah forced herself to believe she could regain a semblance of stability, the flurry of paper on the manager's desk told a different story. The letter emblazoned with the diner's logo struck her like lightning. A termination notice, jagged and unforgiving. The very ground beneath her shifted, the air thick with a suffocating dread. The prospect of keeping her family afloat had just become perilous, the flickering hope almost extinguished by the weight of reality. As reverberations of uncharted fear coursed through her, she flashed through all she had endured. With heart racing and hands trembling, she stood on the precipice, poised to make a choice that could reforge her family's path. Each second stretched into eternity. Doubts bloomed in her mind as she questioned her values. In a world where survival often demanded compromise, what was she willing to sacrifice to save the shards of their fragile life? The clock ticked, and the longing for a better future battled against the anguish of immediate survival. The future of her children hung in the balance, and the echo of their laughter seemed to mock her as she confronted an impossible choice. The storm was closing in. She could feel it brewing in every anxious breath. What decision would she make before the tempest struck? Sarah stood in the diner's cramped break room, the termination notice clenched tightly in her fist. The fluorescent lights flickered above, mirroring the chaos inside her mind. Each pulse of anxious energy made the room feel smaller, the walls closing in with the weight of her reality. She drew in a shaky breath, trying to quell the rising tide of panic. The diner had been her sanctuary, a place where she could pretend for a moment that everything was under control. Now it felt like quicksand, pulling her deeper into despair. Countless scenarios raced through her head, a cacophony of threats and dreams intertwining. Her childhood dreams of a career in graphic design pierced through the noise, vibrant and alive, but they were overshadowed by the immediate dread of survival. The eviction notice loomed larger with every heartbeat, a stark reminder that the safety she had worked so hard for was vanishing. With Lucas and Mia relying on her, she felt torn between pursuing those dreams and the stark need to provide. She paced the small room, her fingers tracing the cool metal of the refrigerator. A spark of inspiration lit within her, a flicker of the passion she thought extinguished. Graphic design was not merely an escape. It was a skill, an inherent part of her identity waiting to be revived. What if she redirected her focus? What if she built something from nothing, a fresh start that could embrace both her professional aspirations and her responsibilities as a mother? The thought blossomed, and with it came the realization that she had been relying too heavily on the constraints of her current circumstances. If she could pivot her situation, perhaps she could harness her artistic talents into a freelance business. But doubts bubbled to the surface. Had she lost touch with the design world? Would anyone even want to hire her after years away? As Sarah stared into the mirror, she confronts her own reflection. The tired eyes and worn features told a story of struggle, yes, but also resilience. She realized how vital it was to reclaim her identity not just as a provider, but as an artist with dreams. The external storm brewing outside mirrored her internal tempest. Yet within turmoil lay possibility. Fueled by urgency, she decided to act. During her lunch breaks, she began rebuilding her portfolio, reaching out to past contacts, and exploring online platforms where she could showcase her work. Each keystroke could undermine her sense of uncertainty with tangible progress. It was a risk, and one that could backfire, but in the depths of desperation lay an unprecedented opportunity. That night, after tucking Lucas and Mia into bed, she dug out her old tablet, dusting off the cobwebs of forgotten uses. As the screen came to life, she felt a flutter of excitement. Those initial scribbles transformed into concepts, ideas bubbling forth like a geyser. Hours melted away as the quiet hum of creativity enveloped her. While the world outside raged in its storm, she found calm in her art, a beacon in an otherwise darkened path. As dawn broke, casting soft golden light through her window, Sarah felt a shift within her, a blend of anxiety and exhilaration. She wasn't merely a single mom facing insurmountable odds. She was a woman ready to fight for both herself and her children. How far would she go to breathe life back into her dreams? But the true test awaited. The next morning, she would face the diner boss, their eyes locking in that moment of confrontation. Would he see the determination in her eyes and reconsider the termination? Or would it be the end of a chapter she desperately needed to rewrite? The morning sun poured through the worn window of her apartment, illuminating the stacks of bills and sketches that cluttered her table. Sarah's heart raced as she dressed for the diner, the termination notice still burning in her pocket. Today was not just another day at work. It was a turning point. She could feel the weight of both fear and hope on her shoulders like a double-edged sword. As she stepped outside, the cold air bit at her cheeks, a jolting reminder of reality. The street was the same, yet everything felt different. The old diner loomed ahead, a fortress of memories and struggles. This was her battleground, where she would confront not just her boss, but also the remnants of her own self-doubt. The bell above the diner door chimed as she entered, and familiar scents enveloped her: frying bacon, fresh coffee, the bustling energy of workers preparing for the day. But today, she wasn't swallowed by the atmosphere, as usual. Instead, she held her head high, aware of a flicker of purpose ignited from deep within. Today, she was ready to reclaim her narrative. Her boss, Jim, stood behind the counter, his back turned as he arranged stacks of menus. She could see his stiff shoulders, know that he would not react kindly to her presence. Taking a steadying breath, Sarah approached, her resolve hardening. She would not merely accept the termination. She aimed to advocate for herself, to share her aspirations, not just her needs. "Jim," she called softly, her voice steady despite the knots twisting in her stomach. He turned, surprise flickering across his features before dissolving into the professional mask she was accustomed to. "Sarah, what can I do for you?" She stepped closer, the bustling sounds around them fading into a blur. "I wanted to talk about the notice. I understand your decision, but I'm asking for a chance to explain." His eyebrows raised, belied skepticism mingling with curiosity. "You've been distant lately. What is it you'd like me to reconsider?" In that moment, her heart raced with the profound truth she needed to convey. She was more than just a server and done merely scraping by. "I'm not just a waitress here. I'm a graphic designer. I can bring new ideas to the diner, fresh branding, marketing strategies. I don't want to leave without at least trying to illustrate my value." The tension in the air thickened, each passing second laden with uncertainty. Jim's eyes narrowed slightly, evaluating her with predatory precision. "You think you can just waltz in here and turn things around?" "I know I can," she replied, surprising even herself with the steel in her words. "I've been sketching concepts, developing art portfolios. Let me show you. If it doesn't work, then I will respect your decision to let me go." A moment hung suspended between them, an invisible battle waging behind each glance. Would he see the glimmer of fervor in her eyes? Did he recognize the determination that had swelled within her spirit during those late-night sketch sessions? She was not merely a woman on the verge of losing everything. She was redefining her path. After what felt like an eternity, Jim's expression softened, an almost imperceptible shift from skepticism to contemplation. "You have 10 minutes. 10 minutes?" She couldn't hide her surprise, her pulse quickening. This wasn't just an ultimatum. It was an opportunity. As she rushed to show him her work, she felt a rush of anxiety and excitement blend together. Could she also communicate, with her art, the depths of her struggle and hope? With shaky hands, she began to unveil her portfolio, each piece a testament to her dreams, her heart laid bare. Yet, within the quiet rush of her ideas, a new fear began to coil around her heart. What if her best wasn't enough? And as Jim scrutinized the first design, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger challenge, one that would test her in ways she still couldn't comprehend. Would her artistry be the key to her future, or would it dissolve under the weight of harsh judgment? As she held her breath, anticipation thick in the air, she sensed the path ahead spiraling into the unknown. What would Jim reveal about both her art and herself? As Jim flipped through the pages of her portfolio, Sarah's breaths came in shallow gasps, her heart drumming a frantic tattoo against her ribcage. Each piece illustrated a fragment of her journey. Bold colors signified her determination, abstract lines reflected her struggles, and soft hues whispered of her dreams. She watched his expressions shift as the vibrant designs unfolded before his critical gaze, torn between hope and trepidation. Finally, he paused on a design that depicted a reinterpretation of the diner's logo, a bold reimagining that encapsulated its homey essence while infusing it with a modern twist. "This is interesting," he said, his eyes narrowing. "But do you really think a logo can change things around here?" "I believe it can," Sarah said, her voice steadier than she felt. "This logo signifies more than just a diner. It tells a story of community, of togetherness. It can attract customers and reflect our values." As the words poured out, Sarah realized she was not just advocating for herself, but for the very heart of the diner. Jim leaned back slightly, arms crossed, eyebrows raised in thought. The skepticism was still there, but now it was punctuated by flickers of curiosity. Would this be the moment where everything began to pivot? "Let us say, I'm willing to consider your ideas," he said finally, hesitating for effect. "What else do you think you could bring to the table?" Encouraged by his interest, a surge of confidence ignited inside her. "Marketing strategies. We can hold community events, work with local artists, and use social media to engage potential customers. I have ideas for campaigns, and, We could even create a loyalty program. It's about creating an experience, something they remember." As she spoke, Sarah felt the excitement building within her. This was her field, her passion. All those years spent sketching and refining ideas now felt like a preparation for this moment. The anxiety that coiled in her stomach began to unravel, replaced by a tinge of exhilaration. She could visualize the diner thriving, bustling with new patrons eager to experience the warmth she envisioned. Jim paused, considering, and she seized the opportunity. "Give me a chance, just a month. I can show you a prototype for the marketing materials and a refreshed brand concept. If it doesn't resonate, I'll understand if you let me go." The stakes were high, but it was a risk she was willing to take. After the silence stretched painfully long, Jim nodded slowly. "Fine, you got a month. But I'm warning you, if it doesn't pan out, I can't keep you on." "I appreciate the chance, Jim. I won't let you down." Her heart soared, but the resolve in her gut had to combat the voice that warned her of potential failure lurking in the shadows. With the meeting concluded, Sarah stepped away from the counter, heart hammering with adrenaline. She had opened the door, but she knew that crossing the threshold would require steadfast determination. As the day progressed, she took on her usual responsibilities, but her mind was swirling with ideas, possibilities teeming with inherent challenges. Would she be able to execute them? What if her vision clashed with Jim's expectations? Internally, she wrestled with the pressure mounting over her new role. It felt both exhilarating and terrifying, the weight of expectation hanging over her like a storm cloud. That night, Sarah sat at her dining table, sketching and brainstorming marketing ideas, her coffee growing cold beside her as she delved deeper into her thoughts. She created mood boards filled with potential themes, pored over design templates, and scribbled campaign ideas that reflected the essence of the diner she adored. But as the hours wore on, doubt crept back. What if this wasn't enough? What if Jim recognized the cracks in her confidence before she could solidify her vision? Her inspirations shimmered in her mind, yet were they substantial or just figments of desperation? Determination took on a new weight as the realization dawned on her. This wasn't just about saving her job, it was about claiming her potential, about defining herself through her work, and not merely surviving by the diner's daily rhythms. She was at a crucial crossroads, one that would challenge every fiber of her being. As she shut her sketchbook, a flicker of resolve sparked within her. She would plunge headfirst into this opportunity and carve a place for herself, not only for her dreams, but for her daughter's future too. And just as she felt poised to embrace what lay ahead, a notification pinged on her phone, an email from a design firm she had applied to weeks ago. With a mix of hope and trepidation, she opened it. Would this be an offer for a design position that could change everything, or another rejection waiting to crush her spirit? Her heart raced as she read the first line, the ambiguous tension pulling at her resolve. Would this correspondence solidify her path to artistic triumph, or force her to navigate yet another disappointment? As Sarah read the email, her eyes raced over the words that had the potential to shift her trajectory. The initial excitement in her chest pumped with energy, but undercurrents of anxiety fought against it. The email outlined a rejection. They appreciated her application. Her portfolio was impressive, but they had chosen a candidate with more experience. Steeling herself, Sarah read the closure multiple times, her heart pricking with each word. Instead of flooding her with despair, however, it became a catalyst for something else, an urge to prove herself, to chase opportunities despite the resistance. Her gut twisted with the reality that she was still here, still at the diner, and still harboring dreams she refused to let die. Lowering her phone, Sarah took a deep breath. Deep down, beneath the layers of self-doubt, a fierce conviction ignited. This was not the end. She could turn her passion for design into an actionable strategy for the diner that would outshine her personal setbacks. With a sense of urgency, she returned to her sketchbook, clawing back a sense of purpose. She needed to create something tangible for Jim, something so compelling that it would overshadow her perceived shortcomings. With renewed focus, she mapped out her strategies, diving deeper into market analysis while incorporating elements from everything she had encountered her journey thus far. She envisioned community-centered events, creative storytelling woven into her marketing campaigns, and a loyal customer program that truly celebrated their everyday patrons. Each idea felt like a thread weaving her destiny tighter to the diner's fate. Days passed in a blur of activity and introspection. Sarah poured every ounce of her energy into redefining herself as a professional rather than a desperate job seeker. She found herself engaging with customers like never before, listening to their stories as they dined, absorbing the essence of the diner as a cherished communal space. Each interaction became a source of inspiration and insight for her branding ideas. While crafting her designs, she began realizing her talents were more nuanced than she had previously understood. It wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about functionality and storytelling. The logo carried deeper meaning than she had first realized. It had the potential to connect, to resonate, and to envelop their shared experience in the diner's narrative. Her evenings became a web of strategic planning. She solidified partnerships with local artists for events, aimed to feature their work alongside her designs, and meticulously tweaked the messaging of every marketing material until it danced off the page. Yet, amid her fervor, nagging insecurities whispered cautions. She fought against the fear of overreaching, struggling to hone a balance between ambition and possibility. One evening, Sarah sat at her dining table, surrounded by a sea of design iterations and marketing draft outlines, when her daughter's voice broke through her concentration. "Mom, are you okay?" The 8-year-old asked, her brow furrowed, sensing the tension woven into the air. Looking into her daughter's wide, innocent eyes, Sarah hesitated, contemplating the model of resilience she wanted to establish. "I'm just working hard to make things even better," she replied, carefully choosing her words. "Like a superhero?" Her daughter beamed, hope illuminating her small face. "Yes, like a superhero," Sarah said, unable to suppress her smile. That moment crystallized something within her. She had to become the hero of her own story, the architect of her aspirations. As she gathered her materials to finalize her presentation for Jim, she was met with an unexpected flash of hope. What if he didn't just see a renewed logo, but recognized her as a driving force in the diner's transformation? But that anxious feeling surged anew as she thought of Jim's early skepticism. Was she deluding herself into a fairy tale ending? Was the appetite for this change bigger than what she could realistically display? The next morning, as the sun peeked through her kitchen window, Sarah stood in front of the diner, her heart pummeling wildly. This moment was crucial, teetering on the precipice of hope and uncertainty. She drew in a deep breath and stepped inside, armed with her visions and a resolve that held her steady. But when she spotted Jim standing near the entrance, a frown etched across his face, a daunting fear rose within her. What would his reaction be as she laid out her newly crafted vision? Would he embrace the metamorphosis she had worked tirelessly to create, or would he dismiss her efforts as frivolous? Her heart thrummed in her chest, but the truth was clear. Now was not the moment to retreat. The confrontation loomed, and Sarah knew she had to face whatever came next, even if the outcome unveiled harsher realities than she predicted. But would she be ready to face the truth? Would the moment finally arrive when she would unearth the courage to not only present her ideas, but also confront the very doubts that had lingered in the shadows? As they locked eyes, she felt the gravitational pull of fate begin to unravel, setting the stage for her ultimate challenge. The room was drenched in a palpable tension as Sarah approached Jim, her breath caught somewhere between anticipation and dread. She could see the lines of worry etched on his brow, his arms crossed tightly across his chest, a subtle defensive posture that mirrored her own inner turmoil. This was the moment where dreams would either take flight or come crashing down. "Jim," she began, forcing her voice to hold steadiness even as her hands quivered imperceptibly at her sides. I've been working on a new vision for the diner, and I believe it can wait, he interrupted, a tension evident in his tone. Before you show me anything, I need to be clear. We're in a tough spot. Costs are rising, and customer turnout isn't what it used to be. If we're to put any energy into changes, it has to make dollars and cents. His frankness stung, not because she didn't understand the realities, but because it confirmed the depths of her fears. Was her vision too far removed from the harsh realities of running a business? She almost faltered at the precipice of despair, but steeled herself, determined to present her ideas despite the heavy cloud of doubt that loomed overhead. I understand that, truly, she replied, her voice stronger now, threading conviction into each word. That's why I've researched and developed a strategy that aligns with our current challenges. I'm not just asking you to trust me on a whim. I have data and a plan. Jim's gaze softened slightly, curiosity flashing through the apprehension. She seized the opportunity, launching into her proposal with a clarity that felt overwhelming yet cathartic. As she explained her vision for a refreshed diner aesthetic, intertwined with local art and stories from regulars, his frown deepened. Yet, amidst initial skepticism, a flicker ignited within her. With every word, she began to shed the last remnants of doubt. The ideas flowed, infused with passion and bolstered by her newfound identity as a professional. She was no longer merely a waitress with a dream. She was a brand strategist with vision. But then, as she waved her hands toward a mock-up of marketing materials, the frown returned, folding his brow. Sarah, this is all well and good, but can you back this up? Do you really think we can change things overnight just by increasing our social media presence and putting our regulars on a wall? A truth nudged at her. There were no quick fixes. She could hear the whispers of her insecurities, echoing their doubts louder now than before. The familiar pang of fear gripped her stomach, but something else pushed back a fierce determination that had kindled in the days since her rejection email. Not overnight, she confessed, her heart racing. But every journey begins with a single step. Connecting with our community and showcasing what makes this diner special can cultivate loyalty. It won't just be about food, it'll be about belonging. If we showcase our story, just imagine the potential. Jim regarded her with silence, his brow furrowed in thought. In that pause, she caught the conflict of seeking of hope against the suffocating weight of practicality. Sarah, I've never seen this side of you, he finally said, the sharpness in his voice blurring as he searched her eyes, looking for something he clearly was trying to comprehend. But are you prepared for rejection again, if this doesn't pan out? Because if I agree to this, it's not just your name on the line, it's mine too. His question hit deep, piercing through her burgeoning resolve. A chill slithered down her spine as she confronted the reality of what was being asked. This wasn't just about creativity or resilience. This was a gamble that could shake the foundation of her stability. Taking a steadying breath, Sarah met his gaze. If I'm not willing to risk something, then I'll forever be stuck in this diner as a waitress afraid to reach for more. I'm all in, Jim. This is my commitment. He paused, weighing her determination against the backdrop of his reservations. But just as hope flickered in her chest, a glimmer of something else sparked in his. Expression of potential breakthrough. All right, he finally said, his voice low, let us schedule a staff meeting, and you can present this vision to the whole team. But I'll be honest, this isn't merely a presentation. It's a call to arms for everyone here. Sarah's heart surged, a chestnut of exhilaration igniting as uncertainty mixed with cautious optimism. She wasn't merely lingering on the edge anymore. She was about to pull others into the fray of transformation. But as she caught his eye, a wave of apprehension rolled back in. Managing expectations, navigating team dynamics, there was so much more at stake now. Her voice steadied, but the weight of the moment pressed down. What if they didn't believe her? What if, in the end, she betrayed Jim's trust and her own ambitions? With the choice before her, she prepared for what would come next, a collective unraveling that might test the very bonds of her courage. As they locked eyes again, she felt the stakes shift to an inflection point. Now, she would have to muster every ounce of conviction and clarity she had left. The time had come to face the fears that clawed at her heart, and Sarah wasn't prepared to let them win. What awaited her next during the team meeting could either pave the way for a revival or plunge her deeper into despair. Would her voice carry weight, or would the echoes of doubt consume her once again? The air was thick with anticipation as Sarah prepared for the staff meeting. The diner was a gathering of familiar faces, yet they felt foreign now, their expressions unreadable as she glanced around the modest room. It had been a long journey of growth, yet the thought of standing before her coworkers to sell a vision was both exhilarating and paralyzing. Anxiety thrummed beneath her skin as she meticulously arranged her notes, laying out the marketing mock-ups and visuals she had poured herself into. Jim sat at the head of the table, his gaze thoughtful, a sentinel of the precarious balance between hope and skepticism. The rest of the team shuffled in, their murmurs a blend of curiosity and trepidation. For many, the diner was a lifeline. Would they risk its already shaky foundation? "All right, everyone," Jim began, his tone neutral but firm. "Sarah has something she wants to share, a vision for the diner that might just change our trajectory. I need you to listen carefully and keep an open mind." With that, Sarah felt as if a spotlight had been turned on her, illuminating not only her face but all the insecurities she had tried to bury. Still, she rose from her seat, shaking off the anxiety like a coat of armor. She inhaled deeply, allowing the oxygen to fill her lungs and banish the tightening in her chest. "Thank you, Jim." Her voice emerged with a hint of feigned composure, though the tremor betrayed her nerves. "What I want to share today is not just about a makeover. It's about our identity and the unique place we hold in this community. We can do more than serve meals. We can create experiences that invite people back, time after time." As she spoke, a flicker of confidence ignited within her, fueled by her own belief in the power of storytelling. She painted a vivid image of the diner transformed with vibrant murals, showcasing local artists and moments captured with customers. Each patron featured a thread in the fabric of their story. But her enthusiasm met a wall of skepticism as a subtle shift happened in the room. She could see some of her coworkers exchange skeptical glances. Hints of doubt creased their brows. She felt the weight of those wary thoughts pressing against her. What if it doesn't attract new customers? One of the waitresses murmured, her arms crossed, typically warm demeanor replaced by guardedness. "Change is intimidating," Sarah acknowledged, her heart racing to counter the dissent. "But from my research, restaurants that engage with their customers on a personal level tend to thrive. We can't afford to keep doing things the way we've always done them. Can we really risk what little budget we have?" Another voice chimed in, echoing the concern she had anticipated but feared addressing. "We're already cutting costs to stay afloat. Are you sure this is sustainable?" The room felt like shifting sands beneath her feet. She couldn't afford to falter. "I understand the risks involved," she asserted, her voice wielding an undercurrent of urgency. "But risk is part of growth. If we want to survive, we have to take a leap into the unknown. We need to make our diner a place where people want to be, not just a place they end up at out of convenience." Every word was laced with a strained resolve she had unearthed, but as she spoke, the doubt in their eyes loomed like ghosts, haunting her aspirations. Jim studied her intently, the flicker of a protective instinct in his gaze. Suddenly, she realized that she was not just fighting for her vision, but for a chance to inspire everyone who had invested their lives in this diner. She could see the staff, each individual reflecting their daily struggles, dreams deferred and buried aspirations fought for in the battle against routine. What if they found the courage to alter their narrative alongside hers? As her thoughts crystallized, a new determination welled within her. "I believe in what we can accomplish," she said, her tone quieter yet more resolute. "Every person here has a story, and we can honor that. If we embrace who we are, and isn't that worth the risk?" At that moment, she sensed a crack in the collective reserve. The murmur of discussion grew, punctuated with cautious glances toward each other. Wondering gazes mixed with skepticism began to morph. An unexpected voice from the back spoke up, one of the cooks, usually quiet, who had built a reputation for his culinary prowess. "I love this place, and I've been here long enough to remember when folks would line up just to get a seat. Maybe it's time we do more than just serve food. Sarah's heart leapt as heads began to nod in agreement. Could it be? But just as optimism began to swell, a looming challenge hovered nearby. Was her vision strong enough to unite them? Or would the fray of doubt pull them back into stagnation? With the room hanging in the balance, Sarah understood that the moment of decision loomed closer. Would they rally behind her, or retreat into the safety of routine? The tide was turning, yet with every inch gained, a knot of apprehension tightened in her gut. How would she lead them through the impending storm of change? Would she find the strength to emerge as the leader they needed, or would she be swept away in the current of their collective fears? All eyes were on her now, waiting for signal. The crossroads lay before her, and the stakes had dramatically risen. The chatter in the diner morphed from skeptical whispers to calculated discussions, each voice carrying its own weight. Heart pounding, Sarah stood at the epicenter, acutely aware of the shifting dynamics. Their concerns resonated, yet a surge of purpose propelled her forward. If she could solidify this fragile momentum, perhaps they could face the uncertainty of change together. Gratitude washed over her as the cook's words lingered in the air. She spotted nodding heads, a sign of encouragement. It was the first tangible acknowledgement of her dream, transforming from a solitary vision into something that might unify them. Still, doubts gnawed at her. Was this enough? The battle against stagnation, against the suffocating routine she sought to disrupt, had only just begun. Let us brainstorm, Sarah prompted, her tone shifting toward collaboration. What do you all think about ways to enhance our identity? Let us share ideas. She scanned the table, hoping her enthusiasm would ignite a spark that would minimize the lingering doubt. I think we could do a local night, showcasing some favorites from nearby farms and makers, piped up one of the waitresses. It could draw in supporters of local goods. It's a start, Sarah agreed, buoyed by this initial embrace of innovation. And it might strengthen our connection to the community. Another voice followed. What about creating a customer wall, pictures of regulars and special days shared with us? It could remind newcomers of the warmth we always had. Nods and murmurs affirmed the suggestion. A flicker of hope ignited in Sarah as more voices contributed. Themed nights, collaborations with local musicians, and even cooking classes that could involve the community. Each idea built upon the last, weaving a tapestry of potential they might yet create. Yet, amidst the excitement, Sarah felt a troubling tension brewing. The specters of financial constraints still loomed darkly in the corners of her mind. How could they implement all these ideas without falling victim to the very fears that had obscured her vision? As the meeting unfolded, it became clear that every suggestion required further deliberation and planning. She steered the conversation purposefully, channeling her earlier resolve into proactive solutions. Let us create a committee of diverse voices, front of house, back of house, so everyone has a stake in this. We can brainstorm feasibility, set budgets, and track progress. That suggestion landed well, gathering unwavering support. Yet beneath the surface, Sarah struggled with an escalating internal conflict. She found herself asking if she was truly ready to navigate this collective direction. What could she bring to the table beyond her ideas? Would the burden of leadership prove too hefty when challenges arose? Keeping her anxious thoughts hidden, she pressed on. The viability of their plans depended on her ability to inspire steadfastness. But what if she faltered? A wave of self-doubt threatening to engulf her resolve. During this storm of ideas, she isolated her heart from impending fears, fixing her eyes instead on the faces around the table. Every nod, every hopeful glance, fueled her desire to push beyond. As the discussions wrapped up and the group felt reinvigorated, Sarah's eyes met Jim's once more. He offered a reassuring smile, as if sensing her turbulent thoughts. You've done well here, Sarah. This could be the start of something great. The mingling of optimism with doubt left a bittersweet taste in her mouth. Could this moment truly mark the transformation they sought? Uncharted territory lay ahead, and the prospect of failure loomed larger than ever. As they dismissed the meeting, Sarah felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She had rallied them to courage, but leading them through this metamorphosis would demand unwavering tenacity and bold decisions. With her heart pounding, she resolved to embody the change they craved. Would she summon the courage to confront her insecurities and guide the team beyond the precipice? The challenge ahead could either break her or reveal her hidden potential. As they dispersed, Sarah made her way to the exit, a new fire ignited within her. But little did she know, lurking behind the scenes was a stern reality that would soon confront her ambitions. An unexpected visitor was about to challenge everything she thought she knew about the diner's future. Who was it, and what truths would they bring to light? As Sarah stepped outside, the chill of the evening air rushed to greet her, filling her lungs with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. She paused, absorbing the energy of the diner behind her, now pulsing with renewed purpose. The weight of responsibility loomed larger than ever in her mind, and she chided herself for any flicker of doubt that lingered from their brainstorming session. Her thoughts raced as she navigated her way to the parking lot. What if they weren't ready? What if her ideas were too ambitious? Each step felt heavy, but she understood it was crucial to confront these doubts head-on. She had taken the first step, but transformation demanded persistent effort. Could she harness the collective spirit she had awakened? Lost in contemplation, she almost didn't notice the unfamiliar figure leaning against her car. A tall woman with sharp features and an authoritative air flicked her gaze up as Sarah approached. Dressed in a tailored blazer, she projected an undeniable confidence. "Sarah Mitchell?" the woman inquired, adjusting her glasses as she straightened herself. "That's me. Can I help you?" Sarah asked, her instincts firing on all cylinders. "I'm Rebecca Harlow, the new regional manager from the corporate office," she replied, crossing her arms. "Heard about your little meeting today." The mention of corporate oversight sent Sarah's pulse racing. Had they crossed a line? Was her initiative considered a breach of protocol? "Right. Well, we were just brainstorming about ways to better connect with our customers," Sarah responded cautiously, wary of the implications and the challenge that lay ahead. Rebecca's expression softened slightly, but the intensity in her eyes remained. "I admire ambition, but you need to be careful. This diner is on thin ice financially. Innovative ideas cost money, and the parent company is watching closely." Sarah swallowed hard, uncertainty clawing at her stomach. "I understand, but we believe that engaging our community more might help. Engagement requires resources. Are you ready for that kind of responsibility?" Rebecca interjected, her tone veiled with skepticism, but in her gaze, Sarah detected something deeper, a hint of curiosity. "I am committed to making this work," Sarah asserted, a sudden surge of defiance propelling her confidence. She could feel the familiar synergy radiating from her team, encouraging her to embrace this moment. "We want to enhance our identity, not just survive. We owe it to the people who've been loyal for years." Rebecca's demeanor shifted, as if she were regarding a puzzle piece that was finally falling into place. "All right, I'll give you this chance. But be mindful that corporate will require tangible results." Sarah nodded resolutely, heart racing at the opportunity that hovered just out of reach. "But," Rebecca continued, her voice firm, "you'll need to justify every expenditure. I recommend you present a detailed plan within a week. I'll have oversight, but this is the moment to prove your worth." The proposition hung in the air, and Sarah couldn't help but feel the weight of it settle on her shoulders. This was the validation she craved, but the stakes had escalated exponentially. She wouldn't just be leading her team. She would be advocating for their future against quick judgments from above. "Of course," Sarah responded, her heart pounding in rhythm with a newfound sense of determination. "I'll deliver." "Good. I'll be watching," Rebecca said, pushing off the car and walking away, confidence trailing behind her. With her mind racing, Sarah returned to the diner, a whirlwind of thoughts crashing through her. This was a pivotal moment that could either fuel her ambitions or lead her to failure. She wasn't just carrying her vision anymore. She was accountable to the team, the diner, and now the corporate office. Uncertainty thrummed deep within her as she entered the diner, the warm light spilling through the windows, casting a comforting glow amidst her burgeoning anxiety. Could she pull off a fully fledged plan amidst the pressure, ensuring every detail was meticulously crafted? As she gathered her team for another meeting, the weight on her shoulders transformed into a fiery resolve. Sarah was ready to fight for this vision. But amid her burgeoning confidence, anxiety nagged at her. Had she really grasped the depth of the challenge before her? The journey ahead promised to be labyrinthine, riddled with obstacles she had yet to foresee. What if the change she sought was met with unforeseen backlash from corporate, or worse, her diminishing finances crumbling under pressure? Sarah took a deep breath, knowing this was just the beginning. And as her team began to gather, a flicker of unease surfaced within her. She thought of Rebecca's words, "Prove your worth." Would she rise to meet the expectations, or would this ambition become the burden she couldn't carry? The ensuing week felt like an eternity as Sarah immersed herself in preparing the proposal for the diner's transformation, fueled by the urgent reminder from Rebecca Harlow to prove her worth. The flicker of excitement from her coworkers' support was interlaced with the tightening sense of responsibility. She constantly reminded herself that all new avenues bore risks, but stagnation was insatiably suffocating. Each day at the diner became a dance of hustle and inspiration. As the sun dawned, she would sketch ideas in the margins of order pads and sketchbooks during quiet moments, poring over cost-effective marketing strategies and creative outreach that would bridge the diner with the community. Clarity grew amidst chaos. Every idea was not merely a pathway, but a bridge tethering her to both her dream and the future of her children. The support from her team blossomed, reframing their collective identity. They gathered during breaks, bubbling with further ideas that lit her spirit. Team members suggested local partnerships for sourcing fresh ingredients, special thematic nights that celebrated the diner's heritage, and even potential collaborations with nearby artists to create a vibrant mural inside the space, a visual storytelling experience that captured their essence. This surge of enthusiasm was contagious. Yet, with every brainstorming session, a parallel swell of doubt loomed. What if the corporate office brushed aside their dreams? What if the plan failed to resonate? Those ghosts of apprehension whispered incessantly as she slogged through timelines and calculated expenses. As the deadline approached, Sarah opted to present a prototype of her comprehensive proposal during an impromptu team meeting. They gathered after hours, some nibbling on leftover pastries, others sipping coffee as her voice filled the diner, echoing off the walls that had encapsulated their stories. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, heart thumping in her chest, "this is our chance to reinvent not just our diner, but our place in the community. Our vision has to stand on two foundations: authenticity and connection. Here's what I propose," presenting her meticulously crafted layout. A structure began to unfold that transcended mere aesthetics. She emphasized her commitment to measurable results, addressing not only the changes to the atmosphere, but the financial impact tied to each suggestion. Imagine creating a locally sourced special Thursday night highlighting our very own artists, chefs, and producers. It won't just draw patrons. It'll deepen our relationships. It'll become a reason for them to come and stay. The meeting room felt charged with possibility. Eyes widened with eagerness as she unveiled the idea of a campaign that would celebrate loyal customers and showcase their stories with video vignettes. Picture it a series of social media posts about their unique experiences here, transforming diner meals into cherished memories. It's about becoming part of their narrative. Excitement danced in the air, mingling with the scent of syrup and fresh coffee. When Sarah finished, applause erupted, laughter followed, and a chorus of "that's brilliant" echoed, filling her heart with a warmth she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Perhaps the hesitation that clung to her was dissolving. Perhaps this pod of support could thrive beyond the bounds she had felt shackled to for so long. Days turned into restless nights as she finalized every detail for the corporate presentation. The stakes were raised, but so was her level of determination. She didn't just want to articulate a vision, she wanted to stand behind it. Her artistry woven into a strategy that showcased her growth and evolution. The day of reckoning arrived like a storm gathering strength. As she faced Rebecca across the sleek conference table, surrounded by corporate decision-makers, the tension hung thick in the room. "Thank you for coming," Rebecca said, a hint of curiosity in her voice that scarcely masked her authority. "I'm eager to see what you have for us today." Taking a deep breath, Sarah unfolded plans that encompassed not just food, but feelings. Presenting her thoughtfully crafted designs and event proposals, she articulated how they were not merely plans, but a declaration of resilience and a testament to the diner's potential. Each recommendation connects back to our core value community, she concluded, laying everything bare. It's about celebrating our story and bridging every diner sitter into experiential memories. A lengthy silence hung in the air, broken only by scratching pens and murmurs, as the board members deliberated the scope of her vision. Desperation clawed at her insides, but confidence held equal ground as the silence stretched. Finally, Rebecca spoke, her gaze shifting from Sarah's presentation to her own note-filled pages. "Your ideas are ambitious," she affirmed quietly, "but they align directly with our goals for increasing customer engagement. Moreover, creative storytelling can infuse a personal touch that resonates deeply." As applause punctuated Rebecca's endorsement of Sarah's proposal, relief cascaded through her, intermingled with disbelief. Was this victory? Had she truly transformed her trajectory from waitress to the architect of the diner's revival? But the pride of accomplishment was not just about validating her worth, nor overcoming her past circumstances. It was about the strides she had made personally. She had achieved not only recognition, but had also confronted her fears head-on. As the meeting concluded and the corporate team prepared to leave, Rebecca turned, her serious demeanor softened. "I genuinely believe in your potential, Sarah. Execute this well, and you could define a new path for yourself and this diner. You have my support, but don't overlook the scrutiny it'll attract. Are you ready for that?" With a newfound resolve coursing within her, Sarah replied, "Yes, I will be ready." The external storm had subsided, giving way to clarity as she stood on solid ground, rooted in her identity and purpose. Each achievement had reshaped not only her dreams, but had fortified the framework for others to follow suit. And as she departed that day, bolstered by unexpected reaffirmation, she felt invincible. The diner soon became a transformed space flourishing with life, memories, and the persistent heartbeat of a community knitting its way back together, fueled by the one who wouldn't let her dreams languish in uncertainty. While challenges awaited her, she had manifested not just tangible goals, but woven herself into other patrons' lives, leading the way with confidence and creativity. Her journey had just begun, but she wouldn't merely endure, she would thrive. Now is the moment to step into your own ambitions. This is the time to confront your doubts. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because you need to see how resilience shapes opportunities. Comment below your reactions and theories about transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how tenacity fosters unprecedented moments of redemption.